My name is Victoria, and at 32 years old, I never expected my family to stab me in the back on Christmas night. I figured they'd finally see my worth when I came back broken from a deployment accident. Instead, over that holiday dinner, my mom locked eyes with me and snapped, "Get out of my house, you useless one." My sister didn't hesitate, she shoved me hard toward the door. I stumbled on the icy steps, the fall snapping my arm like dry wood. Pain exploded through me, but no one moved. Not her, not my brother, not a soul. They just watched as I lay there, the front door slamming shut behind them. With my arm throbbing and no options left, I dragged myself to the bus station in the freezing dark, heading to my grandma's horse ranch in rural Montana. Those 5 cold words did not make me fall, but lit a fire in me. From now on, those who sowed betrayal will taste the consequences they never expected. 6 months later, my phone rang. Mom's trembling voice echoed in the night. "Save your sister's company." I clenched the phone tightly, the corners of my lips curling up. This time my answer would make them never forget. As I unpack this path from raw betrayal to cold payback, drop your location in the comments and subscribe if tales of family knives in the back and rising stronger hit close to home. Growing up under Susan's roof set the tone for everything. My mother. Susan made sure her love came with strings attached. "I bought you that backpack, so you better ace your tests this quarter," she'd say. Or after all, "I've sacrificed the least you can do is scrub the kitchen spotless." Nothing was free. It was always a bargain. My father left when I was 6. I have faint recollections of a man with a calm demeanor who played games with me before bed, but those blurred over time. After he departed, Susan often highlighted how I mirrored him in bad ways. "You have his weak posture," she'd scoff, always slouching through life. The only steady comfort came from my grandmother, Margaret, Susan's mother. Her horse ranch in rural Montana was my escape, a place where I could unwind without conditions. During summer visits, I'd assist with the horses, learn to prepare fruit preserves, and listen on the porch as she recounted her experiences. "Victoria," she'd say, as we groomed the stalls, "you have a resilience that challenges can't crush. Keep that when times turn tough." I held on to those phrases through school as Susan's attitudes grew more unpredictable. Some days she'd seem affectionate, picking up my preferred treats or inquiring about my classes. Those rare moments fueled my hope that she'd eventually offer love without strings. My siblings mastered her system better than I did. Michael, 2 years younger, turned into a shapeshifter, molding himself to whatever suited Susan at the time. Amber, 4 years my junior, honed flattery from young. "Susan, you look so young," she'd comment, and Susan would light up. Meanwhile, I stayed the defiant one, the problematic one, the one who questioned too much and required too much. By 18, I knew escape was essential. The army appeared ideal, a path out, a chance to contribute to something bigger, and oddly, a method to gain Susan's respect at last. The day I announced my enlistment, I spotted a rare glint in her eyes, approval. "The service will straighten you out," she remarked. "Instill some order." What she omitted, but what emerged soon after, was that my commitment also opened financial doors for her. As I geared up for basic training, she mentioned casually how finances were tight, how raising 3 kids alone was tough, how the roof leaked. I pledged my first allotment to send money home right from the recruiter's desk. The officer had just outlined my pay scale when I mentally earmarked a chunk for Susan and the others. It felt right. Family backs family after all. Basic training was grueling but straightforward. For once, the guidelines were logical. Push hard, obey commands, aid your squad, and advance. Susan's random standards gave way to the clear directives of my instructors. I excelled there, finishing near the top. In my initial deployment, I arranged an automatic transfer of $500 monthly. It cut deep into my earnings, but base life covered most costs. On sparse calls home, Susan sounded pleased to hear me. "The community admires your uniform," she once shared. "I parade your pictures. My daughter defending the nation. Those comments carried me through isolated nights abroad, through uncertainty and isolation. Susan was proud. I'd finally achieved something correct. As time rolled on, her demands escalated. The roof became a garage overhaul. Then Amber needed tuition help. Then Michael faced a layoff and returned home. Each instance I upped the amount, often grabbing extra duties or risky posts with bonus pay. When I got leave to visit the phone, warmth seldom showed in person. Susan had repair lists ready or commitments that kept her occupied. Yet there were flickers of cake, with my liked topping a collection of articles on military feats, possibly involving my group, a brief embrace as I left for the airport. I treasured those like rarities, proof that deep down Susan cared. I just had to strive more, provide more, improve. Margaret saw the pattern clearly. On my prioritized ranch trips, despite Susan's gripes, she'd try to illuminate gently. Victoria, affection shouldn't demand so much effort, she'd note as we walked the pastures. You can't purchase genuine care, and if you could, it wouldn't hold value. But I wasn't prepared to absorb her insight. The cycle was locked. I'd serve. I'd transfer funds. And one day it would suffice. One day I'd return to the accepting family I'd craved. That vision propelled me through a decade of duty, through multiple tours, through losing comrades and their memorials. Throughout, I clung to serving not only the country but earning my spot in their affections. How mistaken I was. Those first months in the Army reshaped me. The rigid structure replaced Susan's erratic demands with clear purpose. I threw myself into training, waking before dawn, running drills until my muscles burned, and studying tactics late into the night. My instructors noticed, and I graduated among the best in my class. Deployments followed, harsh, dusty outposts where I learned to trust my unit like family. I set up a monthly transfer of $500 home, a chunk of my paycheck that felt like a lifeline to Susan, Michael, and Amber. Living on base kept my costs low, so I justified the sacrifice. Family supports family, I told myself. Susan's calls were rare but warm when the money hit her account. Your service makes us proud, she'd say, her voice softer than I'd ever heard. I'm showing everyone your photos in uniform. Those words kept me going through long shifts and sleepless nights, convincing me I was earning her respect. But the requests grew. 500 became 600 when Susan said the car needed repairs, then 700 for Amber's college books. When Michael lost his job, it hit 800, forcing me to take extra patrols with hazard pay. I didn't question it. Each transfer felt like a step toward the love I'd chased since childhood. On leave, Susan's warmth faded in person. She'd hand me lists of chores or stay busy with social events. Still, small gestures, a favorite pie, a quick nod kept my hope alive. I just needed to give more. Margaret saw through it during my ranch visits. You're buying affection, Victoria, she warned as we mended fences under Montana's wide sky. It's not real if it comes with a price. I brushed it off, too stubborn to listen. Patricia, a fellow soldier I'd grown close to, echoed her on a call from base. You're giving too much, she said. They're using you. But I clung to my dream of a family that cared. My unit became my true home, comrades who shared meals, fears, and victories. We celebrated promotions together, mourned losses together. That bond carried me through years of service, through sandstorms and gunfire, believing I was building something back home too. Susan's letters grew shorter, her calls less frequent, but I kept sending money, certain it would bridge the gap. Each deployment I pushed harder, took riskier assignments, thinking one more check would make me enough. It was a lie I told myself to survive the loneliness. The truth was waiting to break me. My final deployment was meant to be routine. Our unit escorted supply trucks through a quiet zone, a route I'd run dozens of times. I was joking with a new recruit about staying alert when the truck ahead swerved to avoid debris. The jolt came fast, metal crunched, and I was thrown forward. I woke in a field hospital, my right leg screaming with nerve pain, my femur fractured. The doctor's words were blunt. I'd survive, but my military career was done. Months of surgeries and therapy followed, teaching me to walk with a cane while painkillers barely dulled the ache. The worst was losing my purpose, my unit, my sense of belonging. Susan called more than ever during those hospital days. Her voice, softer than I'd known, promised comfort. "We're fixing up your old room," she said once. "You'll have space to recover." "The church group's planning meals for our wounded hero," she added later. I clung to those assurances, picturing a homecoming where I'd finally feel wanted, a family dinner with me at the center, Susan helping with my exercises, a real bond at last. That hope carried me through the grueling trip home. The military arranged transport to the airport, but from there I was on my own. Each step with my cane shot pain through my leg, and navigating crowded holiday terminals drained me. As my plane descended into Montana's snowy landscape, I felt a flicker of belonging. I was returning not just to a country but to a family, or so I believed. When I landed, my phone showed no messages, no missed calls checking on me. I dialed Susan. "Just got in," I said. Her response was flat. "Oh, today, we're swamped with Christmas prep. Can you grab a cab?" The ride to our suburban house cost nearly $80 a sting, with my funds running low. The place was decked out, twinkling lights, a giant wreath, a glowing reindeer display Susan loved showing off to neighbors. I struggled up the icy path with my duffel leaning hard on my cane, sweat soaking my coat despite the chill. No one came out to help. At the door, I hesitated, unsure if I should knock or enter. Susan opened it before I decided, her face more irritated than welcoming. "You're letting the cold in," she snapped, turning away. The house smelled of holiday spices, but the warmth I'd imagined was gone. "You can use your old room," she said without looking back. "It's a storage space now, but Michael set up an air mattress." I limped upstairs, each step a jolt of pain. The room was unrecognizable: boxes, old furniture, no trace of my childhood. A half-inflated air mattress sagged in the corner with a thin blanket tossed on it. No photos, no memories, just clutter. I sat on the mattress, its creak echoing my sinking heart. 10 years of service, thousands sent home, and this was my return. I pushed down the hurt, telling myself they'd warm up once the holiday rush settled. But deep down, I felt the truth creeping in. This wasn't the home I'd dreamed of. By evening, the house buzzed with relatives for Christmas dinner. Aunts, uncles, cousins filled the rooms, their chatter loud with updates on jobs and holiday plans. I sat quietly in a corner, my leg throbbing, making it hard to keep up with their quick exchanges. My cane leaned against the chair, drawing awkward glances but few words. I felt like a ghost, my presence barely acknowledged. Susan called everyone to the dining room, where a polished table gleamed with her best china and a centerpiece of sparkling ornaments. She pointed me to a cramped seat at the end, tucked against the wall. "Your cane won't trip anyone there," she said sharply, her tone slicing through me. I maneuvered into the chair, my legs stiff, every move watched by relatives who quickly looked away. Dinner began with a brief prayer, no mention of my service or sacrifice. Talk swirled around promotions and new cars, Susan beaming as cousins shared their wins. I tried to join in. "My unit rebuilt a clinic last tour I started, but Michael cut me off." "Pass the potatoes," he said, eyes fixed on his plate. Each attempt to speak was drowned out or ignored, Susan steering the conversation elsewhere with pointed questions. The tension built until dessert, when a sharp spasm shot through my leg. I flinched, knocking over a glass of water. Susan's face hardened. "You can't even sit through a meal," she spat. "You're useless, a burden dragging us down. Get out of my house." The room went silent. Before I could respond, Amber stood, her expression cold. She grabbed my arm and shoved me toward the door. I stumbled on the icy steps outside, falling hard. My right arm snapped under me, pain blazing through. I looked back, expecting someone to help. No one moved. Michael stared at his plate. Susan turned away, and the door slammed shut. The cold bit my skin as I lay there, arm useless, leg screaming. I forced myself up, gripping my cane, and limped to the street. No hotel was near, and my bank balance was under $200 after the cab. A passing driver slowed an older man with kind eyes. "You okay, miss?" he asked. "I need the bus station," I managed, voice shaky. He drove me there, sharing stories of his own holiday alone, refusing my offer to pay. At the station, a late-night bus was leaving for a town near Margaret's ranch. A clerk, seeing my struggle, helped me board. As the bus rolled through the snowy night, I stared out the window, my arm cradled pain mixing with betrayal. My unit had been my real family, sharing meals, covering each other in danger. We'd mourned losses together, celebrated small victories. Susan, Michael, Amber, they'd taken my money for years but offered nothing when I needed them most. Their rejection stung worse than the fall. The army had taught me strength, but this night tested it. I wasn't sure what waited at Margaret's, but I had nowhere else to turn. The bus dropped me at a small Montana station just before midnight. My arm throbbed in a makeshift sling, my leg burned with every step, and my duffel dragged behind me. The 5-mile trek to Margaret's horse ranch was impossible in my state. A station worker, noticing my struggle, called a local driver, Harold, who was heading that way. He helped me into his truck, asking about my service with quiet respect, unlike the family I'd left behind. His headlights lit the gravel road to the ranch where a single kitchen light glowed. I thanked him, insisting I'd be fine, though doubt gnawed at me. The porch steps felt like a cliff. Sweat stung my eyes as I leaned on my cane, pain pulsing. I knocked the sound sharp in the still night. No answer. Panic rose. Maybe Margaret was away. Maybe she'd reject me too. I knocked harder. Footsteps shuffled inside and the door cracked open. Margaret stood there, silver hair loose, her face stern under reading glasses. "Go away," she said, voice like ice. "Your mother called, you've caused enough trouble." My heart shattered worse than the fall. I swayed, tears blurring my vision. Then her expression shifted, shock, then fierce warmth. "Victoria, oh God, I'm sorry." She gasped, grabbing my arms before I collapsed. "It was a test, I had to see you myself. Susan lied, said you'd gone violent, stolen from her." She pulled me into a tight embrace, mindful of my injuries, and helped me inside. On her worn couch, I spilled everything: the dinner, Susan's cruel words, Amber's shove the fall, Michael's silence. Margaret's face darkened with anger. "My own daughter," she muttered. "I've never been so ashamed." She handed me water and pain pills, reading my tension. "Let's get you to bed," she said. "We'll sort this tomorrow." Her guest room felt like a sanctuary, photos of me in uniform on the dresser, a quilt in my favorite colors. Unlike Susan's storage dump, this space held proof I belonged. Margaret stayed close, humming a familiar tune from childhood as I drifted off. The next weeks at the ranch began my healing. Margaret drove me to a local doctor, an older man who adjusted my therapy plan. The arm cast came off in 6 weeks. But my leg needed longer, with nerve pain lingering. I leaned on Margaret's strength. Her community stepping up. Neighbors cleared paths for my cane, church friends dropped off meals. Patricia called often, sharing her own recovery from a similar betrayal. "They don't deserve you," she said on a video chat, her voice steady. "Focus on who lifts you up." Margaret uncovered Susan's deception when we checked my old bank statements. The thousands I'd sent meant for repairs, or Amber's tuition funded Susan's lavish trips and new furniture. None went to the house or family needs. The betrayal cut deep, but Margaret's rage matched mine. "She should have protected you," she said, sorting papers at her kitchen table. I threw myself into ranch work to cope. I couldn't ride horses yet, but I learned to manage feed schedules and update Margaret's old ledgers. Caring for the animals gave me purpose, their trust a quiet comfort. Patricia's calls kept me grounded, her stories of rebuilding after family rejection mirroring my own. Slowly, I felt my strength return, not just in my body but in my sense of self. Margaret's unwavering support showed me what family could be, and I began to see a future beyond the pain Susan and the others had caused. 6 months after that brutal Christmas night, I'd built a new rhythm at Margaret's horse ranch. My phone rang one afternoon while I was updating the stable records. Susan's name flashed on the screen, the first contact since she'd thrown me out. I hesitated, my healed arm tensing, but answered. Her voice was strained, not with regret, but with need. Amber's company is failing, she said quickly. She mismanaged funds and creditors are circling. You've got your veteran benefits, help her out. It's family. I stared at the Montana horizon, the words, useless one, and Amber's shove echoing in my mind. I don't have a sister, I said coldly, and hung up. That was it. No second chances, no explanations. I'd given them a decade of my earnings, my health, my hope. They'd given me nothing but a slammed door and a broken arm. I was done. Susan's world unraveled soon after. Neighbors later told Margaret that Susan's spending lavish vacations, new cars, all funded by my transfers, caught up with her. Without my money, her debts piled high. The bank foreclosed on her house, forcing her into a cramped rental across town. Amber's startup, propped up by my cash, collapsed under her reckless decisions. She lost everything, filed for unemployment benefits, and took a low-wage job to scrape by. Michael, who'd leaned on Susan's handouts, drowned in credit card debt. His credit score tanked, locking him out of loans or decent housing. Their downfall wasn't my doing. It was the natural consequence of their greed and betrayal, a reality all too common in families stretched thin by lies. At the ranch, I found my footing. Margaret taught me to manage the horse business, from breeding schedules to market sales. My legs still ached on cold days, but therapy and ranch work strengthened me. Patricia stayed close, her calls a lifeline. She'd faced her own family's rejection and built anew, urging me to do the same. You're worth more than their demands, she said during one late-night chat. Choose people who see that. Margaret and Patricia became my true family, not bound by blood but by unwavering support. I enrolled in online agriculture courses, using my military benefits to plan a future in ranching. The horses, with their quiet trust, grounded me in ways Susan never could. One evening, as Margaret and I watched the sunset over the snowy fields, I reflected on the past year. I'd come to her broken, believing I needed Susan's approval to be whole. Now I stood taller, not just despite my cane, but because of it. I'd learned family isn't defined by who shares your name, but by who lifts you when you're down. Susan, Amber, and Michael had taken my sacrifices and thrown them back in my face. Cutting them off wasn't revenge, it was self-respect. I'd spent years chasing their love, but real love doesn't demand payment. It builds you up, like Margaret's steady presence or Patricia's honest words. That lesson, forged through pain and clarity, was my greatest gain. If you've ever cut ties to find your strength, share your story below. It might help someone else see they're enough.